What's going on, Unfazed crew? Hope you guys are doing well. So this is actually a video series I've been wanting to do for quite some time. It is diving into my never-ending watch list. It's exactly what it sounds like. My watch list in my notes on my phone, filled with different movies I want to watch, different shows I want to watch, friend recommendations, things I've seen online where I'm like, ooh, that looks like a good movie. Or if I'm watching reviewers on YouTube, I'll be like, oh, got to add that to my list. Got to add that to my list. My never-ending watch list. And it's truly a never-ending watch list because even 100 years from now, after I'm dead and gone, if I were still alive at that point in time, there would still be things that I would want to watch. And even in multiple lifetimes, you never have enough time to watch everything. So therefore, it's a never-ending watch list. I'm always adding to it, you know? But I wanted to start diving into it. And I thought, well, heck, if I'm going to dive into it, let's get some content out of it. Let's share it with you guys. Maybe I can watch some stuff and give you some recommendations for things for you to watch. Or I can watch something and you can avoid it if it sucks. So anyway, here we go. This is episode 1 of diving into my never-ending watch list. Number 1 on the list, a brand new title. Just came out this week, Man on the Run, directed by Morgan Neville. It's all about Paul McCartney and the post-Beatles years, specifically 1969 up to 1980. It goes all the way up to 1980. And it focuses almost exclusively on the Wings era of McCartney. And I'm a big Wings fan. I'm a huge Beatles fan, but I'm also a very big Wings fan. And one of the best things to come out of the breakup of the Beatles, even though that sucks and we all wish they would have stayed together and made more music together, but one of the good things, one of the silver linings of that is McCartney and Wings. McCartney and Wings were so freaking good. I remember as a kid being a Beatles freak. I was a total fanatic. And my Uncle Brian got me, obviously, a bunch of Beatles records, but also Wings Hits and History, the Wings Greatest Hits collection on CD. And I played the hell out of it, man. I listened to that so much. And I'm a Wings fan. I think they're great. So if you like McCartney, you like the Beatles, definitely check out Man on the Run. Really great documentary. Just really heartfelt, really authentic. And it really dove deep into the post-Beatles years, you know, some of the struggles McCartney was going through trying to find his identity, trying to figure out which way he wanted to go, forming a band instead of just being a complete solo artist. You know, it was almost like he could have, you know, and he did release McCartney 1, that first McCartney album with the cherries, you know, the bowl full of cherries, half full, the Linda McCartney photography on the cover. Great album. Maybe I'm Amazed on there, one of his best songs ever. But Paul, I think, even though he was very confident, I think in a way also felt that he did need that band, or he craved that band. And he really blended his family into Wings. You know, he brought Linda McCartney on board to play keyboard and to do backup vocals. And she was not like a trained musician before that. She was just a nice lady and Paul's wife and a photographer. And he's like, you want to join the band with me? And she's like, sure. What better teacher to have than McCartney himself, right? So she learned to play keyboard and sing, and she really added a little extra heart and a little extra something to Wings. And of course, Denny Laine, a legend already, you know, from the Moody Blues, he came in and added his own flair to Wings, and I think just really elevated the group. And there was a revolving door of guys that came in. There was, I forget the drummer's name, there was another Denny in the beginning who played on the first 2 albums, and some other guys that would come and go. But I think the strongest lineup they had was around the Wings Over America era, and that was Paul, Denny, Linda, Joey McCulloch, who had a very short life, sadly, but was an insanely talented young guitarist, and Joe English on drums. I think that was like the strongest lineup of Wings. And if you're not familiar with Wings, that's a great place to start. I would say Wings Over America, the live album, phenomenal. And Band on the Run, absolutely fantastic. And Ram was also really good too. I think Ram was good. That was more of a McCartney album, but it was also a Wings album too. It was kind of that weird in between. It was like Wings was forming on Ram. But yeah, as far as the documentary goes, man, absolutely fantastic. Just Paul kind of discovering himself and finding his own identity post-Beatles. And it really just focuses on those 1970s years. And my only complaint is I wish Wings wouldn't have broken up in 1980. I wish they would have continued in some iteration through the 80s, because as much as I love Paul, I think that was his weakest era. was the 1980s. I think he would probably even agree with that, with like Press to Play and albums like that, with the exception of Flowers in the Dirt, which was a really good album in the late 80s. I think that was 89. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I think if we would have gotten, maybe like 2 more Wings album with kind of a new wave vibe, that would have been pretty sweet. But I'm glad we got what we got, though. The 70s Wings were absolutely fantastic. Check it out. Solid documentary. For any fan of McCartney, even if you're a casual fan, I recommend checking it out. It's really good. If I had to give it a rating, I would say 4.6 out of 5. It was near perfect. 4.6. Very enjoyable, very real, kind of emotional in some parts, and very motivating. One thing about McCartney is he is insanely motivating. The guy is just driven. He just never stops. He's going to be someone that probably dies on tour. Let's hope it's not for a long time. But yeah, an insanely motivating guy. Check it out. It's very, very good. I can't do an alternate casting on this one because it's a documentary, obviously. You can't recast Paul, even though they tried with Billy Shears. But yeah. So I guess what I could say is, instead of an alternate casting, who would I like to see direct this instead of Morgan Neville, who did a great job? I'm not familiar with him until this, but I don't know. Scorsese did a good job on George Harrison, Living in the Material World, so maybe Marty's perspective would be cool to see. But no, Morgan Neville did a good job. If I could think of like other artists I'd like to see have documentaries like this, obviously the other 3 Beatles in that era would be cool. George specifically, but we kind of got that with Living in the Material World. Jim Croce, I'd like to see a good in-depth Jim Croce documentary. Mark Bolan would be great. Maybe Warren Zevon. I think Zevon would be cool. They did a Billy Joel one on HBO recently. Still got to check that out. But yeah, solid watch. Highly recommend. Now let's get into my second title. Completely unrelated. That's one thing I want to do. I want to try as often as I can on the NeverEnding Watchlist videos to make the 2 movies that I review, the double features, be pretty different from each other. So let's get into the next one. All right, the second film we'll be talking about tonight, completely different than Man on the Run documentary. It's called Southern Comfort, a Walter Hill film from 1981, directed by Walter Hill, also written by Walter Hill, Michael Caine, not the actor, not Alfred, different Michael Caine, and a guy named David Giler. And this one was interesting. It was a early 80s film starring Keith Carradine, Fred Ward, and Powers Booth. And it's about these guys, I think they're Army National Guard, who go on a reconnaissance mission with blanks. And they're just doing like tactical exercises and stuff out in the bayou. And yeah, they run into these like violent hillbillies. One of the guys, spoiler alert, is a complete idiot and starts shooting blanks at them after they steal their canoes, and obviously pisses off the hillbillies. So the hillbillies kill one of the guys in this recon group, and they end up being hunted by these backwoods freaky hillbillies. But yeah, the Army guys, or the National Guard guys, started it though, so they kind of got in over their head too quickly, and then they have to survive in the woods with blanks. They don't even have real bullets. One guy does have bullets, but the rest of them in the crew don't. They all have blanks. So they have to try to survive in the woods with these hillbillies. And very, very much like Deliverance, but a little bit of a different flair to it. Yeah, I was really excited to see this movie. I'd seen it recommended on multiple review channels over the years. And I love Walter Hill. Now, Walter Hill's an interesting one because I always revere him as like this really great director, just because of 2 films, though. Hard Times with Charles Bronson and James Coburn. Masterpiece. If you have not seen it, brilliant movie, all about a bare-knuckle boxer in the 1930s. Hard Times. Check it out. That's a hard 5 out of 5 for me. Hard Times. And The Warriors. He also directed and wrote The Warriors. 1979. Gritty. Gangs in New York. Masterpiece. One of my favorite films of all time. So I will always love and respect Walter Hill because of those 2 films. And then he did a couple other good ones. Red Heat with Arnold and Jim Belushi was fun. It was good. It wasn't great like The Warriors, but it was good. A watchable film. Not Arnold's best, but decent. And then 48 Hours, fun. Good movie, solid. Eddie Murphy, Nick Nolte, good stuff. But I still think his 2 best are Hard Times and The Warriors. Everything else I've seen from him, Southern Comfort included, little underwhelming. I think because I am expecting that Warriors, Hard Times, or even Red Heat vibe, and everything else I've watched from him, I haven't really gotten. Although one really good one he did in recent years was Bullet to the Head with Stallone and Jason Momoa. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I know it has mixed reviews from some people, but I loved it. I thought it was really enjoyable. So he's still got it sometimes. But Streets of Fire, I know, controversial. Didn't like it. I was not a fan. Decent soundtrack, good cast, but underwhelming. I expected more. But I know some people love it, but personally I thought it was kind of weak. And then Southern Comfort, I gotta say, guys, spoiler alert. Also, these are going to have heavy spoilers, just to let you know. I didn't like it. I did not like Southern Comfort. I will say the first 15 minutes, good, drew me in, and the last like 20 minutes, solid movie. Everything in between, though, bit of a snore fest. Very unbelievable. Bad acting, with the exception of Keith Carradine, who I think did a really good job. And Fred Ward did okay. He's done better performances. I liked him better in Tremors, for sure. But an okay performance from Fred Ward. Everybody else in the movie, though, pretty unbelievable, pretty stale, kind of crappy. Yeah, just bad acting. The movie would have benefited from a better cast, for sure. No disrespect to Fred Ward and Keith Carradine, but even Powers Booth, he was 50-50. He was okay. But the rest of them, pretty bad, pretty freaking cheesy, I would say. So the story itself, pretty crappy, bad script. The dialogue was bad. It was just bad. The inciting incident, totally unbelievable. I mean, maybe them stealing the canoes, I could believe, to like make their journey easier. But the guy randomly shooting at the hillbillies with his blanks, and then that causing them to get mad and shoot one of the guys on their team. Come on, that's stupid. Like, I know people do dumb things, but like these guys are in the military, their chain of command is with them. I don't know. I just don't think someone would actually do that. It was pretty dumb. So from then on, I was kind of like, all right, this is silly. And then the dialogue was dumb. Just, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great movie. So I would say skip it. There's much better movies you could watch, definitely. I would like to get into alternate casting, though. So for Keith Carradine's character, I picked Michael Paré from Streets of Fire and Eddie and the Cruisers. So Walter Hill had already worked with him. I think he would be good. For Fred Ward's character, I picked James Remar, who also was in The Warriors with Walter Hill. I think he plays a good, crazy, kind of unpredictable character, especially when he was at that age, early 80s. And then I picked Griffin Dunne for Powers Booth character. I think he would have been good, very versatile. I don't think they ever worked together, he and Walter Hill, but love him in American Werewolf in London, and he grew on me in After Hours. He's a great, talented actor and director. And if Walter Hill was unavailable and we have to do an alternate director swap, I think I would pick my boy John Landis from American Werewolf in London. I think John Landis could definitely have done something great with that. And same goes for the script. I think John Landis could have definitely fixed that up a little bit. I expected more from Walter Hill. It was okay, it was watchable, but it was boring, it dragged on too long. The story was crappy and the acting was bad. So for that, I give Southern Comfort a 2 out of 5. I know, a little harsh, but it wasn't great. I expected more from the great master director who gave us Hard Times, The Warriors, and 48 Hours. Like, there was a lot of potential that was squandered on this one. So if I had to give you some recommendations on movies to watch instead that are in a similar style but better, I would say Deliverance with Jon Voight. I would say, and Burt Reynolds, our boy Burt, I would say Dog Soldiers, the werewolf masterpiece, one of the best werewolf films ever. Similar premise, guys on reconnaissance with blanks, going in the woods, bad shit happens with werewolves. Check it out, Dog Soldiers, masterpiece. Very violent, very gritty, very cool. Freaked me out when I was a kid, still love it. I would also say Red Dawn, absolute masterpiece. I believe that was John Milius, Charlie Sheen, Patrick Swayze. Great freaking movie. I recommend those instead. Much better than the 2-star Southern Comfort, I would say. Now, a new thing I want to do on this NeverEnding Watchlist series is try to combine the two titles that I review in each video. So we got to connect Man on the Run McCartney documentary to Southern Comfort, the Walter Hill action film. And And I even like ran it by Chat GPT. I looked through IMDb. I was trying to figure it out. And then just as I was driving earlier, just a few minutes ago, I figured it out on my own. Used the old noodle. And it's actually a very simple connection from Man on the Run, McCartney, to Southern Comfort. Walter Hill directed Southern Comfort. Walter Hill also directed Hard Times with Charles Bronson and James Coburn. James Coburn was on the cover of Band on the Run with Paul McCartney and some other actors in the band. And in the Man on the Run documentary, they showcase that album and the behind-the-scenes photo shoot of them making that album cover with James Coburn and Paul McCartney together in the same place on the same album cover. So they worked together on Band on the Run, and like a year and a half later, James Coburn's working with Walter Hill on Hard Times, and then Walter Hill a few years later in '81 made Southern Comfort. So that's the common thread. I connected them, and I'm going to do my best to connect every movie that I review in this series, if I can, or get as close as I can through some 6 degrees of separation game. But yeah, I was pretty proud of that one. Connected them. Anyway, guys, let me know if you like this series, if you like this idea. I love watching movies. I'm going to be going through my never-ending watch list either way, so I might as well give you some content while I'm at it. Have you seen either of these movies? Do you have any interest in watching them? Any movies you want to recommend for me? Drop them down below. Anyway, guys, hope you're doing well. Like, subscribe, and most importantly, remain unfazed. Thanks for watching. Oh, also a little fun fact, Paul McCartney was my first concert in 2005. I saw him another time a few years later, I think around like 08, 09. But yeah, first concert, Paul McCartney. Big fan. One other concert story I want to tell, aside from the Sir Paul one, just because I don't know where else this would like come up organically, unless it were like on a podcast or something in the future. I also got to see Denny Lane live before he passed away, obviously, from Wings and from Moody Blues. I saw Denny Lane. There was this amazing show I went to with my dad and my uncle a few years ago, and it was a celebration of the Beatles. They played Rubber Soul and Revolver in their entirety, plus a smattering of hits from each of the guys that were playing. And it was led by Todd Rundgren, and Denny Lane was there from Wings, and Joey Mullen from Badfinger, who's also since passed. And we actually got to meet Joey Mullen after the show. And he came up and took a picture with us, and we talked to him for like 5 minutes, and he was very cool, a very nice little guy, very cool. And I'm a big Badfinger fan, so that was badass. Honestly, it was so cool meeting Joey Mullen, and he and Denny Lane, R.I.P., have both since passed away, sadly. But it was magical seeing them and meeting Joey. And but yeah, tying back to Wings, I saw Denny Lane perform. So I saw 2 members of Wings, which was pretty cool. And that show was phenomenal. Like I said, Rundgren, Denny Lane, Joey Mullen, one of the guys from Chicago, the drummer for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Who else was there? Somebody else. Those were the main guys. Those were the big ones. And it was just a phenomenal show because, like I said, they did 2 of arguably the best Beatles albums. I mean, I love all the Beatles stuff, but those 2 are big heavy hitters, Rubber Soul and Revolver. They played those. And then Rundgren played his hits, and Denny Lane did Band on the Run, and Jet, I believe, and Joey Mullen did No Matter What, and I think Baby Blue. And yeah, they all did a smattering of their own hits, and it was very cool. And I got an autographed poster, too, from that show. So it is now one of my prized concert poster autograph collectible items. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So if anyone cares, if you're a Wings fan or a Badfinger fan, it was pretty badass. It was at the Celebrity Theater, fun fact.